Hi, welcome to Darrell and Company. I'm your host, Darrell Fess. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from one of Boston's most well-known figures, Jim Brett. Jim is the CEO of the New England Council, and he's been in that role since 1996. What's remarkable about Jim is that Jim seems to know everyone in Massachusetts and pretty much everybody throughout New England. So, Jim, welcome to our show.
Darrell, a pleasure to be here today.
Great. Hey, Jim, I think a lot of our viewers may not have heard of the New England Council. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is?
The New England Council is one of the oldest regional business organizations in the United States. Our membership is in all 6 New England states, but what makes us different from a chamber or other business group is that we focus primarily on federal issues. We don't get involved in city issues. We don't get involved really in state issues. It's all focused on Washington because we think by working together as a region, we have so much clout that we can present our positions and advocating on our different issues as a council with all of New England working together. And that's the genesis. And it's worked for 95 years. And we work on issues like trade, energy, financial service issues. But we work with all 21 members of Congress. We work with all 12 United States senators. And we do work with governors, but governors with issues that affect all of New England, not just an individual state. But it's unique. There's no other group like this in the country that's multi-state. We represent all 6 New England states. We have over 600 members.
Yeah, it's a great organization. I've been happy to be a member. I'm on the Financial Services Committee, and you've done great work there. And we've had things that got through Congress and became law because of your assistance. So, Jim, how did you end up as CEO of the New England Council?
Good question. I served 16 years in the legislature, and I was chairman of Taxation Committee, Banking Committee, and a gentleman who was at the time president of a utility here in New England reached out to me to have lunch one day and said that, would you be interested in leaving the legislature and representing us in Washington, the business community? It's called the New England Council. I didn't know much about it. And he said, we need somebody who can work both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republican. And we've watched you over the years in the legislature and how well you've worked with, Republican Governor Bill Weld and other people. And we need somebody who can, again, articulate our concerns or our positions, but both sides of the aisle. In 1996, the House was in the hands of the Republicans. Newt Gingrich was the speaker. So they're really looking for somebody who could do that. And my reputation was somebody who can bring people together. Even though we had only a handful of Republican legislators at the time, many of them were my friends. And I think they saw that that's the kind of person we need, is who can bring people together, Democrats, Republicans. And they offered me the opportunity to be interviewed. And the interview consisted of 6 people, 1 from each New England state. And they interviewed me. And the next day, my friend, who's the president of the utility and the chairman of the New England Council, called me and said, Mr. President. So it was unanimous. And that was in 1996. So I was very grateful to be given the opportunity.
Nice. Not bad for a kid from Dorchester, huh?
Not bad for a kid from Dorchester who still lives in Dorchester.
Nice. I love it. So, in that role, the short time I've been a member, I've been introduced to some pretty important people. And I'm sure you've met a lot of important people along the way. Which one of those people would you say you've been most impressed by?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I can give you somebody that I met from 1996 in this position. But the most impressive person I ever met in my whole life is right behind me in the mantle. That's Mother Teresa. I've met her on 3 different occasions, and just very, very impressed with her and the work that she was doing, and even the way that she preached was just very powerful. You could not be impressed without being inspired, being in her presence. It was extraordinary, and each of the occasions that I had met her, I was just in awe and of her life, and yet she was a CEO herself, a CEO of many homes throughout the world, and she was just an inspirational person for me in my whole life, meeting her. But going more to your question, since 1996 and meeting all of these elected officials, I mean, obviously, Ted Kennedy is high on the list, the way he conducted himself. In a similar fashion, working both sides of the aisle, having friends on both sides of the aisle, and being a serious, thoughtful legislator. And he was always somebody that I always admired, to say the least. Other people, Susan Collins is one in Maine. I really believe that she is somebody that votes her principles rather than the party. You see that on different occasions where she is being criticized for her position. But she is one that I admire greatly. Joe Moakley was another one that just a wonderful human being who loved politics, loved people. Obviously, I believe you need to love people, be engaged with people, and listening to their concerns to be a successful politician. He was that. Richie Neal's another one. Richie Neal's a very serious, thoughtful legislator, works both sides of the aisle, has many friends on the Republican side, talks to them all the time. And to me, we don't have enough of very, very thoughtful legislators who get things done.
Right, those are very interesting people you name, and you know what, the one thing that probably ties them all together is character and people that do the right thing. So that's good. I like it. One last question for you. Is there a particular cause that is near and dear to your heart?
How much time do we have? The one issue that I'm passionate about is disabilities. And the reason is it all began in 1934. My brother was born, the oldest of six, born with a very severe disability. My mother, being a woman from Ireland, came here in 1928 with a sixth grade education and had my brother, Jack, as her first child, severe disability. The doctor said to her that my recommendation is we take your son, put him in an institution, he'll have a roof over his head, 3 meals a day, and will not live that long. And while I have you here, I'd advise you not to have other children. Well, she didn't agree with the doctor's advice. She said, "Doctor, I'm taking my son home and we're going to have more children. And he will be part of their lives and they will be part of his life." And so I was the youngest. So obviously I watched at a very early age how one lives with disability. My brother, Jack, had an IQ of 36, and yet he was my teacher. He taught me how one lives with disabilities. And I promised my mother that whatever I did in my life, that I would always advocate for people with disabilities. And I became a legislator, advocated for disability issues as a legislator. I am now in my 20th year as the chairman of the Governor's Commission here on Disabilities. Governor Jane Swift, Governor Mitt Romney, Governor Deval Patrick, Governor Charlie Baker have all appointed me chairman of the Governor's Commission here on Disabilities. President George Bush appointed me to the President's Committee on Disabilities. President Obama appointed me chairman of the President's Committee on Disabilities. And Nancy Pelosi appointed me as the only member from the House to the National Council on Disability, where I am now the vice chairman. So I have a passion on disabilities and trying to help an awful lot of people that, like my brother Jack, who had nobody helping him at the time, And in those eras of 40, 50, 60s, there was no programs and transportation, education, housing for people with disabilities. So I've made it a commitment in my life to be an advocate for people who have no voice, people with disabilities, ID, DD, intellectual disabilities, developmental disabilities.
Great, Jim. Passion is really important, and obviously you're passionate about the disability causes. And, you see it every day when I go to a New England Council meeting. You're passionate about your job and what you do there. And I think that's what makes you a successful individual. So
yeah, I love my job. I love being able to bring people together and to move the dial, move some major piece of legislation. And when it's passed, you give tremendous credit to all those people and you take a step back. Because when you do that, it works wonders. When you share that credit with other people and just take a step back and say to them, thank you. But it's bringing them to the table. And I'd like to think that's one of the skills that we developed early on, is that we have to be a very good listener, not just a good talker. You have to be a very good listener. And I'd like to think we've done that.
nice. Jim, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here. You're doing a great job at the New England Council. Keep it up.
Well,
And thank you to everyone out there for joining Daryl and company.
yeah, I appreciate it, Daryl. Appreciate your support, your friendship, and your membership with the New England Council. Thank
Happy
you.
to do it. All right.
Yeah.